Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. I did not expect to be saying this in April, actually, we're in now, of 2018, but there is a new dossier update on callofduty.com/classified relating to the upcoming second DLC for CoD World War II. The codes that you need have been found on a promotional image tweeted out by Cameron Dayton and the Sledgehammer Games Twitter account, Kalinine, and this is all via Noobey that I even stumbled on this in the first place, but Kalinine has done a really good job of compiling all this information and has quoted the letters to be QFANW, AYMRF, EZNQG, and once you enter those three codes into the classified site, just like we did so many times back before release, we get the message, "Beware the Throne," which obviously relates to the Shadowed Throne, the map coming out in less than a week now. It's pretty crazy, 6 days. And we also get some new screenshots of the map, which is really cool, and some new dossier entries from Drosten Hind, who previously has had various bits of paper released through the Sledgehammer Games weekly update, but it seems like here we're getting some things that are a little bit more substantive and give us a little bit of background towards the story for The Darkest Shore, which is pretty cool because there was a lot of narrative background there that didn't really seem to make it into the game. So we're getting info there, but it's also pointing straight towards this upcoming map pack and also pointing towards the image that Call of Duty tweeted out to start all of this off with the things that you're seeing on screen. You've got this guy kneeling in the bottom left, you've got these 4 knights in the top left, and then on the right-hand side, you have this dude with a sword and some wings. All a bit bizarre, but Drosten's going to give us a bit of an explanation as to what the hell is going on. So, let's jump into his dossier entries first, and then we'll look at the screenshots of the map, including one that is a beautiful shot of the boss. Going to be really good for thumbnails, that one. And then we'll just tie this up with my thoughts on kind of where we really stand right now with World War II Zombies and this upcoming map pack. So, Drosten's messages start off on page 27 of this little journal, as you can see at the top, which is cool that they're giving us a little bit of a page reference there. That's nice. And it says, "So, if they're not going to pay me in marks, then I'll make sure that I'm compensated in some other way. Drosten doesn't work for free." And you then have another one of his silly little doodles. Speaking of which, I had a chance to sit down and go over some of the pages I liberated. More illustrations by the Mad Monk of Heligoland. Much of the text has been rendered illegible due to water damage. And my own subterfuge. Had to tuck the pages in my knickers while crossing the security checkpoint. Let's just say there's not a lot of extra room in there for antiquities. But better folded up in my trousers than framed in some Nazi estate. Page 28. Did a quick rendering of the pages here. Not my best work, but helps to dissect the layered symbolism when I draw them myself. 4 knights in the top left. On the right, you've got the symbol of guarding, apparently, and protecting. You've got black wings on the figure and a regal sword, which lacks a pommel. Then in the bottom left, you've got what he believes is the monk. He thinks the knights are angels, worship, or fear. And in the bottom right, he adds, "Why the dark wings, not angelic? The monk is no expert on armor or weapons, but why wings? Makes no sense." Page 29, he says something, and then text, from what I can decipher, relates the story of how this monk arrived on Heligoland to convert the locals to his faith. They weren't having it. Decided he would be their next sacrifice to dear old Nerthus, and there's a caption there on his little doodle saying, "Not a kindly goddess." Apparently, these 4 knights arrived in time to save his Keister. Record gets kinda loopy then. Wings and lightning and magic weapons? And dead cultists. He ended up alone on that island, guarding the Raven's Egg, he wrote. And then he died. Then on page 30, we see something would happen on things, fog rolling in with that island, and something else didn't belong. He got headaches with something frequency. Himmler said Heligoland was the German Atlantis, a nexus point of electromagnetic energy. I didn't find anything to validate that, but did uncover some artifacts that resembled Paleo-Indian tools like those found amongst the Yagan. Odd. The tools caused any electronics to go haywire when brought near, and our radio would screech unless we tuned it to 38.9, 39.7. After a minute, we heard voices. I threw the radio into the sea that night. And that's where his journal entries end for now. So we'll talk about what that all signifies in just a moment. Let's look at these pictures, because in my opinion, they are really pretty. So you've got this first one, which is of the actual, I guess, like concert hall type thing that you've got going on here. In the next shot, you see the boss thing, creepy monster, I don't even know, like Moichler crossed with a mangler, I guess, or something. That seems to be the theme that they've got going on there. In the next shot, you've got the interior of that building, most likely, and that all looks fairly creepy, to be honest. And then finally, you've got a shot which is probably the most uninteresting of the bunch, which is just a zombie standing outside that same building that we've already seen. So that is a quick run through all of the new documentation that can be unlocked on the callofduty.com classified site. Now let's talk about whether this is even worth discussing in the first place, where the sort of story for WW2 Zombies stands, and what I think about the attempts they're making to actually get us involved and invested in the rest of their DLC season. The approach that they have taken of giving us this full image, this full document that has been pilfered by Drosten, and then also giving us a annotated sketch version of it with his thoughts, in my opinion, is really cool. I think that this is a really interesting way to get a kind of window into the mind of that character and the knowledge that he has. Clearly he's done research in this area, as we know from his past, but it's just a nice way of getting some of that information out in the open in a quite natural form, I think. Some of the problems I've had with Drosten's diary entries in the past have been that they've felt like extreme exposition, but this, in my opinion, feels a little bit more natural, which is really nice. I'm also really curious now about the monk, where previously I wasn't really so much. I didn't know why there was a monk on the island necessarily, or why he was giving us riddles with his talking head or anything like that, because I just assumed that it was a gimmick that they were doing for the map and not necessarily something that would have a backstory that they had crafted. But it seems like, sadly in retrospect, they are at least deciding now that they're going to make the monk purposeful in some way and use it as a kind of plot device, I suppose, to give us some kind of an idea of where things might be going in the future. Are the four knights the Raven Lords? Is the guy on the right-hand side meant to be Barbarossa? I mean, the sword lacking a pommel might indicate that, seeing as we already found Barbarossa's pommel, then that sword's missing a pommel, that's more likely to be Barbarossa's sword, but is it Barbarossa himself wielding it, or is it someone else? And if it is someone else, then what are they doing, and etc., etc., the kind of questions go from there. I think the rest of his little story is pretty interesting as well, about how Heligoland was the German Atlantis according to Himmler. That's something that people have discussed at some length for The Darkest Shore, but because of the lack of in-game references to that kind of mythology, it never really gained any traction, certainly on my channel, and I think in the community at large as well. It just didn't seem like a theme that they were going to explore, so it's nice to give it a reference here, to give it a bit of attention. And the discussion then about the radio screeching unless they tune it to certain frequencies, and then after a minute hearing voices as well, that's pretty cool to me. Like, in my opinion, that could mean that we end up needing to tune a radio in this coming map, the Shadowed Throne, in order to listen to the voices and follow some instructions or something. That would be very Call of Duty Zombies. But similarly, this might simply be referring to something that we're going to need to do on the radio itself, on the classified site, because there is a tunable radio on there, which admittedly can't be tuned to 38.9 or 39.7 as his dossier entry states, but maybe there'll be some kind of interplay with that in the near future. Who knows? Anyway, overall, I think that it's interesting that they're doing this on the classified site now, seeing as I reckon there are maximum about 50 people who are going to actually bother to put this code in. I would be extremely shocked if there were any larger numbers than that actually going over to the site, because interest in the game is just so low right now, and heck, I posted a trailer, which was the first trailer for WW2 Zombies' second DLC, and it did exceedingly badly. One of the worst performing videos on my channel in months, in years even, and I've been exclusively posting zombies until this point, so the community is really just in a funny place, and I appreciate the fact that we're getting more storyline details, they're fleshing out the narrative. That is stuff I love. I like the underlying themes as well, with Nerthus, with Himmler and his obsession with the German Atlantis, and even just Heligoland as a concept in the first place, as a location that was cool. Shadowed Throne, in my opinion, has a lot of potential as well, but the trailer, for the zombies portion at least, was only 20 seconds long. It really told us nothing about the map other than the fact that there is one area which is outside a ruined building, and there's a boss in it, which really isn't news at all. And I don't know what the solution is at this point to this problem, other than essentially just capitulating to the hype that Black Ops 4 is going to start building as we get closer to the community reveal for that in 1 month's time. Literally, in 1 month, well, 1 month and 2 weeks or so, we're going to be watching the Black Ops 4 community reveal, and I'm just not sure how this game is going to be able to cope with that great burden upon it, because people's interest just seems to not lie with World War II right now, which sucks, because I'm not the biggest fan of the game. I'll be completely honest with you and transparent on that front, but I do think that when the DLCs release, regardless of whether you really like it or not, and I felt the same during IW, it's still fun to just get involved in that hunt for a couple of days, still fun to figure out how the Easter egg works and all that business, fun to watch the intros and the outros and all of that, and just generally be a part of the process, even though the rest of it, like playing the map continuously or anything along those lines, is not really a very attractive proposition. It's difficult as well because as a creator, yes, I make YouTube videos because I enjoy doing it, but one of the things that I enjoy the most is posting content that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy, right? Like, I do this to make other people happy, to inform them, to excite them, to surprise them, enlighten them, whatever it might be, and if there's a particular game that is just getting really low viewership because people aren't interested, then it makes me less inclined to post it, because it's not all about me. It is about you guys as well, and I'm trying to serve your interests. So it's a difficult one. I'm still going to be posting DLC 2, do not get me wrong. I'm definitely going to be having guides up, etc. on launch and streaming it and all that good stuff, but I am just a little concerned for the longevity of the map pack and ultimately the legacy of this entire game. I think that right now, it stands to be a rocky one. But anyway, I've been MrRoflWaffles. Leave a like if you've enjoyed the video, click subscribe, click the bell, turn on notifications, and then give yourself a high five for being great. I'll leave you here because I've talked for far too long about this. See you next time. Bye-bye.